All right, we are week 3 of our Explore Pauper League or ladder. Um, Last week didn't go so well. Made a few adjustments before I start splashing into um, other colors. I wanted to stick to Monogreen and just see if I can get a few more reps and really flesh the deck out. I think I was being probably a little greedy because last week my stumbling block was consistency of lands more than anything. There were windows of opportunity for me to get something down. I just didn't have the right mana. And if you stumble at all, especially against a deck that's your worst matchup, you're going to have a lot of problems, and that's what we ran into last week. So this has a lot of lands. You can see Migratory Greathorn is in here, and I'll go over the list, but that takes the place of Witchstalker. Not exactly what I would want, because I'm going second. I think it's a little land heavy, but I do like the fact that I'm hopefully going to be drawing more gas, so I'm going to keep this. Oh boy. Well, the good news is we do have things that give us reach. So if we're playing against the hero armor deck, we could have a problem. Okay, lots of lifelink, lots of lifelink. Oh boy. Oh boy. All 3 of their hawks in the opening draw. Cool deal. This is going to be tough. I mean, when White Weenie just puts out all their hawks on turn 2. Oh, yeah. So it's going to be enchantment base. It's going to have cool. Alright. We don't quite have the Lifecraft Cavalry. Well, we do have the mana. We're going to take another 4. Let's just play it out. Yeah. Interesting that they wouldn't put that on their lifelinker. Cool. Five, 6, 7. We can't do that. Cool. So they're now at 6, 7, 8. bit of life. I'm sure he's got the pump. So what do we bring in? Again, maybe another one of our worst matchups. So what do we bring in? I believe, well, we do need to bring in some of these. Definitely pillions to get flying. I don't think ram throughs really serve us very well. I mean, they might, right? But I think we go after those. We definitely want some cheap snake skins to protect against things that target us, because I'm assuming they're going to have some enchantments that will lock us down. But I think having cursed idols is important. I mean, granted, it will be at sorcery speed, which is a bummer. But it's the enchantment removal we have. And yeah, I think we go there. So yeah, this is another difficult matchup. I think we would have liked to have seen something that gets us a bigger guy down early, but what are you going to do? We'll play first. Let's see if maybe we get out. We have to mulligan that. This we can keep. And we got to pitch both of those. So again, not a great start. We need to have early plays. Like, you have to get out quick against this deck, especially when they're just going to play flyer, right? Not a good week for me. So we've got back-to-back some of our worst matchups. We've got back-to-back. Last week we played Eighth Wrath. This week we played mono white flyers. I'm definitely going to have to come up with a sideboard plan for those matchups. Cool. Yeah, everything's fine. Cool. So basically, they're just going to build up, wait for the alpha strike, get the 4/4 bigger and bigger and bigger. kind of drawing dead now. All right, so not much there for both weeks. So let's go. Oops, we don't want to pause that. We want to go to make sure that we do the small changes. So, did we see things like we wanted to this week? No. So this week we hit another stumbling block, right? We didn't really get any turn 3 big boys, right? That was a change of pace. I mean, a lot of times in the first 2 weeks we saw them. We came out really good that first week. Second week we stumbled on lands. This week we did hit the lands, but we just weren't seeing the big guy there to follow at the right spot, right? We needed the pinions or the careful cultivation or the jewel thief on turn 3, and we were continually seeing that great horn. And that great horn's nice because it helps us accelerate mana, but to make these guys cheaper, it's not really helping us. We also didn't see our ancient. I mean, we do have a decent amount of anti-flying, but we don't see our pinions. We saw our careful cultivations, but by that time they were already too big. We don't see any of our big flyers. So this obviously lacks some of the strength of historic, where you can get something big once they get, a creature out of range of your big guys. They've got first strike, they've got flying. There's not much you can do with it. So we just got ran over by a deck that's hard to beat for what we're playing. I think we did make the right call in dumping the Witch Stalkers and increasing our land count, because we did see that we were getting the right amount of lands. Maybe we can drop one land, mess around a little bit with it. Maybe we can bring down to like 21 lands since we have so many mana sources. The concern is if we're playing something that does have things that remove us early, our mana sources dry up. This doesn't have anything that removes us early, so when we flood on lands, we're kind of in a catch-22. So it might be something that maybe we adapt to the sideboard, cut a few lands. We'll have to figure it out if we continue playing this. But another week of getting crushed. But what are you going to do? You face your worst matchups week after week. That's going to happen. So we'll see if we bring this back for the next few weeks, what tweaks we can make to be a little bit more robust against the meta. I think we definitely have to spend some time in the sideboard, because it's clear that I don't have much of a plan there to solve anything. We had some answers to enchantments, but we had to kind of pitch them away to get faster hands. And then maybe we could have kept them and slow played it, but I don't really know that when you're playing a deck that can just get a lot of swarms up in the air and you have limited people with reach, it's really tough to combat that, right? I think you're just kind of in a position where you're in a bad matchup. So that's one that you kind of have to accept the loss. I don't think so much with 8 Wrath, though. Like 8 Wrath, I think that's a matchup we can win. It is a bad matchup. But I think it's one that we can win when we have so many spells that protect our guys against their Wrath spells. That's really the biggest deal, because the little chip damage, it hurts our L's, but as long as we're able to get big boys down and have something to protect them, we're okay. Against flying, it's a little bit different. So I think we have to come up with something that really helps us secure the board. Maybe it's some fight spells, I don't know. But you could see that they're running protection, that BJ's running protection with I don't know what the name of the spell is, but it gives you a +1/1 counter, makes you indestructible, and gives you lifelink. That's a really good spell. It's essentially like Gaia's Might, right? So have to pay attention to how we go about filtering those lists. The problem is I think we're in a really bad matchup, and I don't have a good answer for it like I do in Historic. Like Historic, we run Ray of Revelation, and we just strip all their enchantments, and it's not really a big problem. Like, we have answers in the Historic format. In the Explorer format, there are answers. They're just not nearly as good, and nearly as easy to implement. Like, you've got to take a ton of sideboard space up to get that same kind of enchantment disruption that you have in this, right? If we can pull off the armors, if we can keep the things from them getting big, then we don't really have to worry so much about their swarm. We just have to make sure that we can keep pace, get some things that block, and we have a good amount of stuff. We've got we've got 9 cards in the main that help us with reach in some way, that either give flying or reach. And that typically should be good. Like, you typically should see some of that, but we're just not seeing enough. So there'll be things that we'll need to do in the sideboard to address that matchup, and then, but not to a point that we overcorrect and leave ourselves vulnerable to other things. I think that's, kind of something that we might have done last week, where we overcorrected versus 8 Wrath and didn't consider much else. But that's what you kind of do when you go through a ladder, and we'll see how things pan out. So a bit rambly, mashing my thoughts on how to figure this one out for the rest of the week, or the rest of the weeks to come. So another nail situation where we get hammered, but we still had a good time, and we'll come back in another week and see what we can do to improve. Take care.